Welcome to the 2026 astrology forecast. We have so many great things we're going to talk about today. My name is Jenny Webb. I've been an astrologer for about 20 years. I focus on evolutionary astrology and karma and the evolving soul. So lots of great things coming up for 2026. We'll still be dealing with the Saturn-Neptune conjunction. I have lots of good information about that in the forecast for 2025, which I posted a year ago. Next year we have the Uranus-Pluto trine coming into focus, and that is also aligned with the Saturn-Neptune conjunction. But Uranus and Pluto will be trine in air signs. We'll talk about the solar eclipses, a Venus retrograde, the literal and metaphorical fireworks for 4th of July. We've got a lot of interesting lineups for July of next year. And we'll also mention Jupiter and Leo, and we'll talk a little bit about the economy and where that is heading. And we will also talk about the forecast for each zodiac sign, and that will be toward the end of the video. So if you would like to learn more about astrology, I have a few videos on TikTok, but I'm more active right now on Instagram and Facebook. I have a few videos on Neptune. I have lots of learning material on Patreon. Some of it is unlocked for everyone, and some of it is locked for subscribers. So there's learning videos, there's forecast, all the daily videos are posted early there. I do post daily videos on Facebook and Instagram, little daily updates for all the zodiac signs. If you would like to schedule an appointment with me, you can go to my website, jennywebbastrology.com, or you can go directly to the scheduling through Acuity, which is jennywebbastrology.as.me. I have 15-minute, 30-minute, 60-minute, 90-minute consultations, all different kinds of stuff that we can talk about. I have just a couple more things before we get started. I have a book I released last year, Venus in Love. If you would like to look at that, it's on my website. And then also the zodiac stones, where we have engraved the zodiac signs and planetary symbols and matched them up to particular stones and crystals. I got a whole book about that. So let's take a look at our timeline for next year. We have Uranus trine Pluto in the middle of the year. It'll be exact in July, but it got really close this year. So that'll be our first topic, but just generally long term, all of the outer planets have been going into fire and air signs. Now Jupiter now is in Cancer, which is water, but it will go into Leo, a fire sign, next year in 2026. But we also have Pluto in Aquarius, Neptune in Aries, Saturn in Aries, and Uranus in Gemini. So fire signs, they're idealistic, it's impulsive energy. Now the big aspect that we're anticipating is the Saturn-Pluto square in 2028. So that'll be kind of the next big one that we're looking for. Just kind of like we were anticipating the Saturn-Neptune conjunction, which we'll still be dealing with until then. But the Saturn-Pluto squares are difficult. It would also be conjunct Chiron. So Saturn will be in an earth sign then in Taurus, and I think Saturn will be conjunct Chiron. And Chiron represents wounding. We're also due for an economic downturn by the end of the decade, which I've talked about a lot. But Saturn-Pluto combos are rough. Our last one was in early 2020, in January of 2020, a couple of months before the big event that year. But I think January of 2020 was that was hard for a lot of people, unrelated to the big world event that happened later. There was a lot of pain there. Not saying this not saying that we should fear this, but it just represents hard work. And they will be in fixed signs. So it's just hard work. And how you experience it depends on your life, and how you're living your own life. There can be a wide variety of experiences for people there. Maybe you'll just be working hard on something. we'll talk about that more going forward in future lectures, and I'll probably start talking about it on Patreon before long. So the Uranus-Pluto trine. Uranus and Pluto are transpersonal planets, sometimes referred to as generational planets. The transpersonal planets are Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. So they operate beyond our everyday personal awareness. They're kind of a level up. They move slow. These planets move slowly through the zodiac, shaping collective growth and generational shifts. There are signs that they're in you share with everyone else that's around your age. So it's like Pluto, for example, is what I track for the generations like millennials, Gen X, Gen Z. I know that they go by year, but for me, I use Pluto sign, for example, for Gen Z. That's Pluto and Sagittarius, and the millennials are Pluto and Scorpio, and I'm Gen X, which is Pluto and Libra, and maybe even a little Pluto and Virgo, I think, are Gen X as well. The boomers are Pluto and Leo. That's how I see it. Some other people, astrologers, may describe it a little differently, but the personal planets, they do describe who we are in our daily life and our personality. But the transpersonal planets describe who we're becoming as part of humanity's greater unfolding. If you're interested in learning more about the planets, I have like an hour-plus long video explaining all the planets in detail on my learning tier on Patreon. Now, Uranus and Pluto, both of these planets together are like agents of transformation. Now, Uranus represents our unique individuality. This is who we would be without social conditioning or external expectations. It's the energy of awakening, rebellion, or breakthroughs that help us live more authentically. Pluto symbolizes our power and our shadow side. The drive, it's a deep drive, or anything that drives us. It's our passions, our fears, trauma, even our unconscious instincts that we keep hidden, the ones that we want to hide, for example, anger or jealousy. Pluto's influence invites us to face these depths and to transform through them. And together, they'll work together in a trine next year as catalyst for evolution. And they'll strip away what no longer fits and push us toward a higher expression of truth, authenticity, and empowerment. And when I go through the forecast by zodiac sign, I will also give more insight into like which area of life this will affect for your sun sign. So what does it mean when two planets are in a trine? So trines are 120-degree aspects. They represent easy flowing energy between two planets. Sometimes it can, I think that this particular aspect and the time that we're in will be a healing aspect, because we're in a time of change and we're trying to change and raise our vibration and raise the vibration of the planet. And Uranus is human rights. And 10 years ago, these planets were in a square around 2014, 2015. And a square feels like friction. Things don't flow easily. But now these things can start to flow. And we think about what was going on, 10 years ago. Beginning of the Me Too movement, Black Lives Matter, there was lots of clash and friction then, but now this energy can flow a bit more easily and we can go up to the next level. There's a big focus on working together and blending individuality with the collective. We're learning how to use what we've been through, use it in a constructive way. And this trine will set the stage for genuine progress, innovation that actually helps people. we'll talk a little bit about the history of the Uranus-Pluto cycle. So the beginning of the cycle is when the two planets are conjunct. And it's kind of like a new moon is sun conjunct moon, and that's the beginning of a cycle. When you have two planets conjunct right next to each other in the sky, that's the beginning of a cycle. And then you go forward to when Uranus moves forward to square Pluto, and Uranus has moved forward enough to trine Pluto. That's part of that cycle, just like a lunar cycle, because a lunar cycle is just the relationship of the moon to the sun. And here we're talking about the relationship between Uranus and Pluto. So the beginning of the Uranus-Pluto cycle, or this particular cycle, was in October 1965. And this was the first conjunction that they had since Pluto was discovered in 1930, I think. So you can think of that conjunction like a new moon, a powerful new beginning. It's a new beginning in relationship to Uranus-Pluto themes, which often is revolution. And Uranus-Pluto together often brings a revolution and transformation. And the 1960s reflected that perfectly. And sometimes this energy starts to come in right before the conjunction. It doesn't mean it was only after. Even before Pluto was actually discovered, when they did have conjunctions, we could see revolution or things building at least right before. But during this time, we had social movements, breakthroughs in technology, new ideas about freedom and equality. They all took root here. And this cycle, it usually lasts around anywhere from like 127 to 170 or more years. So it can take a long time. And it varies too, I think, because Pluto has like an elliptical orbit. So Pluto's orbit isn't just circular. So that's why like Pluto only stays in Scorpio for like 8 years, but it'll stay in like Aquarius and Capricorn for like over 20 years. So yeah, this conjunction hit in the mid 1960s, and it showed. The civil rights movement reached a peak with the Voting Rights Act, which actually occurred in 1965. That was a big shift in collective power. We were looking at like women's rights, anti-war protests, the rise of counterculture, all echoed that Uranus-Pluto theme of revolution. Creativity exploded. We had the Beatles and Bob Dylan and Andy Warhol, and all symbols of change and individuality. Technology was quietly taking off around that time. I mean, we were looking at like early computers, space exploration. Humanity was reaching higher in every sense. And it was the time of chaos, but it cracked the world open, in the right ways. And because this is beginning of a cycle, we're looking at all these things as the beginning of something. So thinking about, let's see, women's rights, for example. Really talking about that, around this time. And at the square between the two planets, we saw the rise of the Me Too movement. Now, as we go forward, Uranus and Pluto, after this time, both planets keep moving forward, but Uranus is faster. So we look at, okay, how is Uranus keeps moving farther and farther away from Pluto, because Pluto's the slower planet, and then Uranus eventually will square Pluto. We have Uranus and Pluto squaring, Uranus and Aries squared Pluto and Capricorn. That was 2013, actually, so a little earlier than what I was thinking. And 2013 marked the first kind of tension point since 1965, at least between these two planets. So we see a conflict between innovation and control, and it began to reshape the world. A square represents crisis point, and that's in the growth phase, where tension pushes progress. And during those years, we saw, rebellion and instability and a lot of change in how systems and structures worked. It was messy, but necessary. And that's when we really started to break away from outdated models of power. I mean, I know by that time we had social media, but I think around this time it really started to take off, especially, and we had Facebook, and then we had, there was another one, I can't think of the name. And people didn't use it for very long. MySpace, I think is what it was. People didn't use that for very long. But I think Instagram started slowly to take off. Or maybe it was a few years later. But social media, YouTube was really taking off by this time. And so when I, in my notes I had, about us breaking away from outdated models of power, I was thinking about social media and people feeling like they have a voice. Because before, if you wanted your voice heard, I mean, you had to be, interviewed or on the news, or I mean, if you wanted to reach a wide audience, that was not easy. You had to maybe submit an article to the editor of a paper to get it published or whatever. People were doing blogs by this time, but to actually have your literal voice heard, we were starting to see that more and more. And that gives one power when your voice can be heard. Remember, this is tension. And there were a lot of voices competing to be heard, and, what's true and what's not true, and when is it too much? And so, what else did we have? I mentioned Black Lives Matter, Me Too, the rebellion energy, Occupy Wall Street, global protest. The square was active between 2012 and 2016. In 2016, I think that was when Trump was elected, right? There's this sort of rebellious energy that came in with that, and we're still seeing that play out. Technology really started to change everything, right? Like, I think most people had smartphones by that time, but they were getting better and smarter and faster, and then we had the debates about privacy, online privacy that became everyday life, cryptocurrencies. New digital economies began shaking up these old systems. But this is kind of a breaking point phase that we were in, the pressure that forces, evolution. And now as we reach the trine, that same energy can finally find direction and purpose. So what can we expect with this Uranus-Pluto trine? So Uranus in Gemini is about new ideas, okay? Uranus is new and Gemini is thinking and ideas and communication. It's about new conversations, shifts in how we think. And Pluto in Aquarius, we've been dealing with this for a few years now. It wants deep, lasting change. Aquarius is about change. And I think these two planets can relate to each other in such a wonderful way because Uranus rules over Aquarius. So that's another connection there. But change in the systems, that shape our lives. And when they're in a trine, it's like they're on the same page, and breakthroughs come through easier. This energy will help us to rebuild what's been torn down, but in a smarter, more conscious way. It's about progress through awareness, not like the chaos of the square, which is good news. So it's a time of integration and renewal. So now technically, these two planets are really close to a trine, like less than a degree within maybe 10 minutes. And that was in September 2025 or so. They were retrograde. I think Pluto was definitely retrograde. So they were both retrograde. That's right. And they never quite made the exact aspect at that time. But they were close. So these energies were definitely starting to come in. Their first exact trine is July 18th, 2026. They will continue to make this aspect to each other through May of 2028. So continuing through that, right, as Saturn begins to square Pluto. So hopefully this will help, some helpful energy that we can use for the hard work of Saturn square Pluto that we'll be dealing with in 2028. But this trine will bring a chance to integrate all of the lessons that we've been learning on a societal level since 1965. And especially since 2013, since the square. This is where innovation and power finally start working together. Expect breakthroughs in communication, technology, global cooperation. We think AI has been taking off now, just wait till this trine gets into, we get into a groove with it. The Uranus-Pluto story will continue, but now it's about building something lasting from what once was broken. So if you are a Gemini, Uranus is in Gemini, or Aquarius, Pluto's in Aquarius, or if you're the other air sign Libra, this is your year to soar. And the next few years, as these planets continue to trine, especially if your air sign sun is between 0 and 15 degrees air, between 0 and 15 degrees of one of these three signs. I would say the next 3 years are your years to soar. The Uranus-Pluto trine will energize your natural talents, your ideas, how you communicate, getting creative, being able to innovate, and you'll attract new opportunities that feel really exciting, like a breath of fresh air, and you're excited to move forward, but also aligned with your purpose, because your sun sign is your soul purpose. Now, you will also be able to incorporate this energy into your life if your moon is in air, or Mercury, Venus, or Mars. It'll just affect a different area, because your moon has to do with your inner world and your emotional body. Mercury is how you think and communicate, so lots of good ideas would be coming in, maybe new studies. Venus is how you relate to other people, and also your financial, and Mars is how you take action and how you defend yourself, and so much more. But the key is to stay adaptable. Uranus does bring change, no matter if it's a trine or another aspect. It will bring change. And Pluto, no matter what it's doing, it's not always easy to handle. So don't cling to routines that no longer inspire you. And that's the best way to deal with this and to have the most positive experience. Freedom is huge next year. You're going to want your freedom if you're one of these air signs, and even the next 3 years to come. But remember, collaboration will multiply your influence. Freedom doesn't necessarily mean being alone. So if you're Moon, Mercury, Venus, or Mars, or in Gemini, Libra, Aquarius, expect activation. This trine will bring clarity to your emotional mental patterns, which is the Moon, Mercury. You'll feel, I mentioned some of this just a minute ago. I forgot I had it on this slide. You'll feel more curious, creative, socially connected. It's Venus. And for relationships, it's a great year to communicate openly and try new ways of expressing love on the mental plane. For work or creativity, fresh ideas will come in easily. Keep a journal or your voice memo handy. But overall, it's about rediscovering your joy in thinking, sharing, and connecting. Now let's talk about Jupiter and Leo and how this connects to the Uranus-Pluto trine, because they'll be influencing each other. Now on June 30th of 2026, Jupiter will move from Cancer into Leo, from water back into a fire sign. That's a very big energetic leap, going from Cancer to Leo. If you know anyone in your life who is a Cancer and know someone else who's a Leo, you'll know there's probably a big difference between those two people. Cancer is subtle, emotional, inward focused. Leo is bold, dramatic, and expressive. And Jupiter spends about a year in each sign, so This will kick off a whole new growth chapter for you. It's a time for confidence and for leadership and taking up some space, and especially in creative or public ways. That's where the opportunity will be. Expect more passion, more visibility, more excitement. People will want to be seen and appreciated. And after a quiet emotional Cancer phase for Jupiter, Leo will bring in more color and sparkle and momentum. Fire signs are very dynamic. Now, when Jupiter first enters Leo, it will immediately connect with the Pluto-Uranus trine. It'll oppose Pluto, and it will sextile Uranus. That's a huge activation energy. Around late June, early July, Mars will join Uranus and Gemini, and adding some speed and some intensity there. Mars adds a lot of energy to whatever it touches. So we'll feel that shift, in July. I think in early July, when Mars joins Uranus, that might be around 4th of July. So I talked about those 4th of July fireworks being literal and metaphorical. When Mars and Uranus line up, we can get fireworks. The Leo fire meets Gemini air. We'll feel this shift. It will feel electric. Things will be moving very fast. Expect dramatic announcements. There's probably people getting engaged or announcing a pregnancy, or getting pregnant, or bold decisions, sudden breakthroughs. It also can be very volatile. Mars-Uranus can trigger impulsive or explosive reactions. So grounding is key. And overall, it's just a high energy window. So if you need lots of energy or lots of courage to do something, or if you feel like you're blocked in some way, this can, blow the lock off of that locked door, and can be very inspiring for creativity, but it can also overheat. So July 4th, fireworks, but July 19th, that's also a standout moment, and that entire week, because I'll double check, but I think that week, so Sunday, July 19th, that entire week through Saturday, July 25th, is Jupiter, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. They all line up at a 4-degree mark. So they'll all be 4 degrees from each other, creating this basket pattern, as you can see here, which is really interesting. Jupiter at 4 degrees of Leo, Uranus, of course, in Gemini, Pluto in Aquarius, and Neptune will be in Aries, although Neptune and Pluto will be retrograde, but the lineup is still there. We call that like a basket pattern. So Jupiter will be exactly opposite Pluto. It's uncommon to see this much supportive energy at once, everything flowing easily, if you're moving with intention. So, and as we see Jupiter opposite Pluto, oppositions can be tension. That's why the line is in red, but with Uranus and Neptune are helping to balance it out. And I'm sorry, but Jupiter-Pluto combinations, whether it's a trine or it's a square or it's an opposition, it tends to be really good, because even when they are in tension with each other, it can be really powerful. Jupiter-Pluto combinations in a natal chart, for example, Noel Till calls it the kingmaker combination, especially if we see it in a conjunction or square. It's just something about Jupiter, even in the tension aspects, can actually really be helpful, because then that gives the motivation to do something with that Jupiter energy, and not just rest on our laurels. Air and fire signs working together mean inspiration, meeting, motivation. Ideas become action. It's an excellent window for breakthroughs, for a creative launch, new projects. If you started a new business around this time, I don't have the other planets up there during that week. I would have to look at especially where Mars was at, and Saturn. Let's see, Saturn would be probably around Neptune, because it's in, Aries. I think that'd probably be, a great week to at least consider for starting like a new business venture or something else. A good time to make for travel, making a big announcement. It's kind of like this week. That week, the universe will be saying, go ahead, the doors are open. So I will definitely have that on my calendar as a really great week for next year. I'd like to talk about the economy just for a minute, and some of this will be repeated from last year, but it's still important. I'm still concerned about the economy for a few reasons. The last time I checked, as I'm recording this anyway, it might change later as you're watching it, but as I'm recording it, the stock market is hitting highs. I think it had a down day last week, but I'm recording this, it's November 15th today. So I think it had a down day, but for the past few months, the stock market's just been on a tear. And but I am concerned about the economy. So the reasons, in astrology we see the ups and downs of the economy, and so the reasons eventually come, whatever the reasons are. We could say it's tariffs, we could say it's something else, it could be a surprise, but I've been concerned about the economy for the second half of the decade. The McWhorter cycle is based on the lunar nodes. It points to economic highs and lows in 18-year intervals, and we're nearing we're actually in the downturn phase, and we're due for an economic low between 2029 and 2031. The high in the stock market will, of course, occurs before the economic low. Ray Merriman's a great financial astrologer, done a lot of research with that. He has noted that both stock market highs and major crashes tend to happen during Republican presidencies. So that's when the market extremes occur, both the peaks and collapses. And also we have the Saturn-Pluto square, and this part is different from what I had talked about in last year's. And it occurs in 2028 with Saturn in Taurus, and that Taurus is the money sign and is conjunct Chiron in Taurus, and that often represents financial and emotional wounding, but also rebuilding strength too. So taken together, all of these things suggest a high probability of recession and maybe even significant downturn that bottoms by around 2030. But, like I said at the beginning of this talk, it's not about fear. Saturn-Pluto energy is about hard work, not hopelessness. So the best way to prepare is pretty simple. Save more money. I've been saying that for years now in preparation for this time. Save more money, avoid unnecessary risk with your money, care for your health, focus your energy where it truly matters. Personally, we're staying cautious, but my moon is in Taurus, and so is my husband. So we tend to be cautious with money anyway, because that tends to be a Taurus thing. Spending wisely, staying grounded. These cycles always pass, and the economy goes up and it goes down. After it goes down, it will eventually come back up. Let's talk about this Venus retrograde that we got going on. It's late 2026, but still within 2026. Venus will station retrograde on October 3rd at 8 degrees of Scorpio, and it'll be conjunct Mercury, which will be at 3 degrees of Scorpio. At the same time, we have Mars will be in Leo, opposite Pluto and Aquarius, and they'll be squaring Mercury and Venus. And so that's explosive emotional energy. Venus and Mercury will be opposite Chiron. So really we have a very powerful cross here, a major turning point. This will bring any buried pain to the surface from relationships, anger, old patterns, even memories of emotional or psychological abuse, because Venus rules relationships and Scorpio rules trauma. This will often play out through, you'll play this out with someone that you've known for a long time, or someone you knew long ago. Maybe old wounds will reopen, not to hurt you again, but to help you heal them once and for all. Whatever you've carried with you that you need to let go of. And there's support though. I mean, we have the Sun in Libra, Uranus in Gemini, Pluto in Aquarius. They're forming a beautiful triangle of air energy on that day. The Sun will be activating that Uranus-Pluto trine. So that energy will help you to step back, see things clearly, and choose freedom and renewal. And Pluto is the key here. It's the planet that exposes what's hurt and how we've been hurt. But it'll also help us to transform. And healing means allowing yourself to feel those old feelings, instead of running from the pain or trying to numb it with distractions like a new relationship or social media or overworking. Meditation, journaling, therapy, quiet reflection can be life-changing under this retrograde. So this isn't easy energy, but is profoundly cleansing, and that's how we reclaim our power. Now, Venus will go direct on November 13th. She'll be at 22 degrees Libra. She rules over Libra. She's happy in that sign. And there's a mystical rectangle on this day. And a mystical rectangle is when you have 4 planets at least, and we have 2 planets trine to each other, and here it's Mars and Chiron, or Mars, Jupiter, South Node, and with Chiron are in a trine, and then on the other side we have Venus trine the North Node. And then, so you have 2 sets of planets trine, and then those trines are connected by 60-degree sextiles. So Venus, Mars, Jupiter, the nodes, and Chiron will be in this mystical rectangle. It's just a very supportive pattern here is what it'll boil down to for reconciliation and for healing and, bringing balance and understanding to relationships, because sextiles and trines tend to be very supportive. And it's going to be really supportive of relationships, obviously, because it was a Venus retrograde we're coming out of, but Venus in contact with Jupiter and Mars. So especially for romantic relationships. And then Chiron is involved, which is healing. And then the nodes are involved, which tells me that there's some karma there and fate. Venus retrograde often brings people back into our lives, sometimes for closure, sometimes for reconnection. You might hear from an old friend, an ex, or someone you haven't thought about in years. It's not always about rekindling something. Sometimes it's about just seeing how much you've grown. If it was someone you dated 10 years ago and you talk to them and you're like, wow, we're not the same people anymore. I'm not the same person anymore that I was back then. As of today, November 15th, 2015, we're not in a Venus retrograde, but I did see an ex the other day, and I realized, wow, I am not the same person that I was 10 plus years ago. I'm different, and it's kind of weird seeing someone you used to know. But these reunions, and for me, it was just seeing someone from a distance. It wasn't a reunion, but if you do reunite with someone, it can help you reflect on your values and how your heart has changed. If it's a pleasant, if it brings up pleasant, happy memories, enjoy that nostalgia. But remember, Venus retrograde is not the best time to start something brand new or to start over. Take it slow, reconnect with gratitude, but use these moments for opportunities for healing and reflection. And then if you are thinking about rekindling a romance, I would wait until after the retrograde to see if it can, have legs. concerning Venus retrograde in our finances, because Venus rules money and values and the things that you enjoy, it's best to keep an eye on your spending during that time. You can redo your budget or create a new budget or put all your finances in an Excel sheet and look at them. That's what my husband likes to do. He likes to have everything organized in an Excel sheet. So we know exactly where our money is going every month. We know how much money goes to what, expenses. And it's really helpful to see something, to see it in front of you. Often when we keep things in our head, we overestimate the good stuff and underestimate the bad stuff, which I always do with calories. So I always underestimate how much I'm taking in. This would be a good time to, if you don't feel good about your appearance, this is a good time to redo some things. Venus retrograde isn't the best time to try something new necessarily, but it's a good time to make adjustments to what's already in place if something's not working. You can do that during Mercury retrogrades as well. It's a time to have a different approach. And for Venus retrograde, it's time for a different approach to relationships and to money, and also to your appearance. So during this time, you could explore a new haircut. I wouldn't do it until the retrograde is over, but you can explore and think, hey, is it time, for a new look? It's good to keep an eye on your spending. You could buy something you later regret. Unexpected expenses can pop up. For me, I know that's come up a lot when Venus first stations retrograde. I buy something and turns out it's delayed, it doesn't arrive right away, or it's defective in some way. So when she first goes retrograde, I don't recommend buying any luxury items. I would avoid splurges, big purchases, impulsive shopping. If it's something practical that you need, it's fine. What I'm worried about more is luxury items and beauty products and fashion. And once Venus moves direct, you'll have a clearer sense of what's worth your time and energy, financially and emotionally. So let's look at the solar eclipses of 2025. We have a solar eclipse on February 17th next year. That is in Aquarius. And then we have another one August 12th, and that is in Leo. So the solar eclipse on February 17th is at 28 degrees of Aquarius, and it's tightly conjunct Mars and square to Uranus in Taurus. And that's the reason why we have this, poor woman right here, this surprise look on her face. Because of the Mars-Uranus configuration with this. It could cause some surprises, especially with Mars in Aquarius. But this can show up as people fighting for human rights, or having those discussions, or fighting against radical ideas, in the opposite direction. That tension can go both ways. It is bold, it is unpredictable energy, and when Mars crosses that eclipse point about a week later, and what I mean by that is the eclipse point is at 28 degrees of Aquarius, so it like burns an energetic hole in the sky. Obviously I don't mean that literally, but it's like it like burns a point there, and that point is sensitive for several weeks after. So anytime a planet crosses that for, let's say, the next 6 weeks, that's crossing the eclipse point, and that is a trigger. And when Venus crosses, she won't cross this one, but if it was Venus, it would be kind of subtle. We wouldn't really notice it. But Mars crossing this, we're going to notice it. And that's around February 27th to 28th. That can be explosive energy. So if you're not someone who likes surprises, don't plan a relaxing getaway during that time, anytime the second half of February. So we really have this explosive energy from February 17th all the way to the end of the month. This eclipse is about awakening, about standing up for what matters to you. And it's best to stay mindful and avoid any impulsive reactions. Now, a few weeks later on March 3rd, we're going to have a lunar eclipse. That'll be at 12 degrees of Virgo. There'll be a lot of planets in Pisces. All those Aquarius planets you see up on the screen right now, They'll, like Mars, for example, will have moved into Pisces, I think. I don't remember off the top of my head now, but I know we have a lot of planets in Pisces that day because I wrote it down in my notes. That lunar eclipse will help to calm things down. So as soon as we get into March, there's a calming down here. We get a break. We can let our, adrenals recover. Virgo brings practicality and Pisces brings peace and compassion. So while February's solar eclipse will feel like a lightning strike, that March lunar eclipse will help us to find balance again. So we can look forward to that. Now, the second solar eclipse next year of 2026 will happen on August 12th at 20 degrees of Leo. Jupiter will be nearby at about 11 degrees of Leo. Mercury is right there too. It's a fortunate, optimistic setup. And one of the archetypes for Leo is the lion. So here we have the lion. It's also the performer. But Jupiter usually will bring growth and luck and positive outcomes, especially in Leo, where confidence and creativity shine. This eclipse is opposite Pluto and also sextile to Uranus, so there's power, insight, and breakthrough energy available. The only catch is that it's a south node eclipse, and south node eclipses are about karma. It's about release, and it's about the past life baggage. So a south node eclipse can bring up old patterns and past life themes or consequences from past choices. North node eclipses, because an eclipse will either occur at the south node or the north node, and the nodes are just points calculated in space. I have a video about that on my Patreon. But north node eclipses open doors, and south node eclipses ask us to close doors gracefully. It's not about bad energy here. It's just heavier. It's more reflective and helps us to heal and complete any unfinished cycles. But with Jupiter and Mercury and Pluto involved, there are lots of good energy. There's lots of good energy for awareness and communication and healing. There's lots of support here. This is a powerful time to make peace with the past, especially in relationships, since Venus will go retrograde not long after this. And well, I guess it's in October, so 2 months later, but do as much work as you can before that, because that Venus retrograde, we talked about that. She's in Scorpio, and it could be some heavy stuff that comes up then. So whatever emotional or karmic work you can do before the Venus retrograde will set you up beautifully for growth later on. Now's the time for the fun part. This is the sun sign forecast. So I'm going to tell you how the Uranus-Pluto will affect you next year, and also tell you how you can use Jupiter and Leo to your benefit. So let's start with Aries. 2026 will feel like a breath of fresh air. Life starts to feel fun again. The Uranus-Pluto trine will connect you with people who inspire you or help you to grow. Friendships, group projects, social networks can lead to surprising opportunities. Jupiter moving into Leo will highlight love, creativity, and pleasure. Romance could heat up. And you might meet someone who completely sweeps you off your feet. If you're already in a relationship, it's time to bring back the fun and the playfulness. And this year is about joy, confidence, and remembering how good it feels to just simply be yourself. And Aries loves that. It's important for them to be themselves, to be authentic and independent, right? Taurus, 2026 spotlights your money and career path with fresh income streams, role changes, or a reputation boost. The Uranus-Pluto trine will help you redefine your worth, both financial and self-esteem, and help you step into greater authority. Expect breakthroughs in how you earn, how you price your work, honor your worth and what you do, present your, you could have a breakthrough in how you present your expertise, Your visibility will rise, credibility will follow, so use it to negotiate better terms. Jupiter in Leo will bring warmth and stability at home, so renovations or a move or deeper family connection. Build a supportive base so you can take smart risk professionally. The bottom line here is publish your public image, elevate your rates, and fortify your home life to match your growth. Gemini. 2026 will feel like a personal awakening. You're seeing yourself and your life in your life path in a brand new way. The Uranus-Pluto trine will link your identity to your beliefs, so meaning your worldview is evolving fast. You may feel a strong urge to explore new ideas, to travel, or to even share your wisdom through writing, teaching, or mentoring. Your confidence will rise as you realize how much your words can influence others. Jupiter and Leo will light up your communication zone, so it's a fantastic year for speaking, for learning, or promoting your message. Connections with siblings, neighbors, or your local community will bring joy and opportunity. And the more you share your truth, the more doors will open. Cancer. 2026 is a turning point for you in emotional and spiritual growth. The Uranus-Pluto trine will help you release old fears and habits that have held you back. This is about letting go of the past, of the guilt, the grief, the buried emotions, and stepping into your empowerment. You're learning how to trust your instincts again and how to find strength in vulnerability. Jupiter in Leo activates your money and self-worth sector of your chart, so it's time to rebuild confidence and take pride in what you offer. And you may find new income sources or ways to monetize your natural talents. And the more you value yourself, the more the world will mirror that back to you. Inner healing will lead to outer abundance for you this year. Leo, 2026 is your year to step in the spotlight. I know you love to hear that. The Uranus-Pluto trine will bring transformation through other people, partnerships, friendships, and collaborations. Old relationship patterns will shift. You're attracting connections that truly match your growth. And this energy helps you build powerful alliances, both personally and professionally. And with Jupiter in your sign, everything will expand, like your confidence, your vision, your opportunities. It's time to express who you really are, unapologetically, and with heart. And just remember, all of this, with all of this visibility, stay authentic. True influence comes from warmth, not ego. And this year's motto for you, lead with love and the world will follow. Virgo, 2026 is about alignment, putting your work, your habits, and health in harmony with your deeper purpose. The Uranus-Pluto trine will bring breakthroughs in your career, your daily life. You may redefine what success means to you. This can be a major step up professionally, especially if your work helps others and solves real problems. Your routines and wellness choices are transforming. New habits could completely change your quality of life. Now, Jupiter in Leo will encourage quiet reflection for you and spiritual growth. You may crave more solitude, time in nature, or a creative outlet that feels, a little bit more private but healing. This is your year to rest, to restore, and prepare for your next big cycle of expansion. And you're learning that true confidence comes from inner peace, not from perfection. Libra, 2026 is about rediscovering what truly inspires you. The Uranus-Pluto trine will connect your creativity and your vision for the future. You may feel called to share your ideas with a wider audience, teaching, publishing, stepping into a leadership role, maybe more social media or videos, maybe some traveling. Wherever you go, it will open your mind to new possibilities and possibly a spiritual awakening for you. It's a beautiful time to create from the heart and let your beliefs shine through your work. Jupiter in Leo will expand your social world. New friendships and communities will feel energizing for you and supportive. Group projects, collaborations could help your dreams grow faster than you expected. Inspiration, love, and learning will blend together this year, helping you align your purpose with joy. Now, Scorpio, 2026 is a year of deep transformation inside and out. The Uranus-Pluto trine will help you release old family stories or emotional attachments that no longer serve you. Healing the past will strengthen your foundation and help you stand in your power. You may move, reconnect with family, or finally find peace in a long-term emotional situation. Jupiter in Leo lights up your career and reputation. Recognition for your hard work is on the horizon. And this is your year to lead with authenticity and to step into your authority. So the more you trust your inner power, the more the world responds with respect and opportunity. Sagittarius, 2026 will bring fresh air into your relationships and your mindset. The Uranus-Pluto trine will help you speak more freely and relate more authentically. Seeing your partnerships, romantic or professional, in a new light. Honest dialogue will lead to breakthroughs and a deeper trust. And Jupiter in Leo will open doors to adventure for you. Travel, education, new philosophies that reignite your optimism. This year encourages exploration of both the world and the heart. And it's about rediscovering your voice, your truth, and your joy in connecting with others. Capricorn, 2026 will help you rebuild from the inside out. The Uranus-Pluto trine will strengthen your foundation. So steady progress through smart planning. You might streamline your daily routines or shift how you earn money, creating more efficiency and freedom for yourself. It's a great year to invest in your skills or your health. So small, consistent changes will lead to big results. Jupiter in Leo will bring opportunities to share resources or form powerful partnerships. Emotional intimacy will deepen and financial collaborations can thrive if trust is strong, because that's important for you. You need to trust someone. You're learning to combine practicality with passion, and that's where your real power lies. Now, Aquarius, 2026 is a year of rediscovery of yourself, your desires, and what makes you feel alive. The Uranus-Pluto trine will energize your creativity and your personal expression. You're ready to show a new side of yourself. Reinvention is your theme. Style, mindset, even your relationships will evolve as you grow more authentic. Romantic opportunities may surprise you. Someone new could awaken your sense of play and excitement. Jupiter in Leo will light up your partnership sector, making this a year to build stronger, more balanced connections. It's about finding harmony between independence and intimacy. So let people see who you've become, this new version of you that is radiant and magnetic. And Pisces, 2026 helps you rebuild your inner world. It's a year of emotional and spiritual renewal. The Uranus-Pluto trine will bring deep healing around family, home, or your sense of safety and belonging. Old memories or patterns may resurface so you can release them and make peace. Trust your intuition because it's stronger than ever, guiding you toward what feels right. Jupiter in Leo will highlight health and daily routine, so it's a great year to focus on balance, fitness, developing consistent habits that support your purpose. You may find fulfillment in helping others, teaching, or creating a work rhythm that feels meaningful to you. And this year blends heart and practicality, so spiritual insight guiding grounded action. And I always end these yearly forecasts with the luckiest day of the year and a quote. So here, our luckiest day of the year is July 29th, 2026. This day is bursting with opportunity and positive flow, especially for Leo, Aquarius, Gemini, Libra. And also Scorpio and Taurus will feel it too, but maybe not quite as strong as those 4 signs. But it's a fantastic time to start something new, a new project, a relationship, a side hustle, a personal goal. If you like to take chances, this is the day to buy the ticket, to make the call, send the message, or take the leap, or even July 30th or 31st. Creative pursuits will thrive, especially anything connected to performance, leadership, artistic expression. The energy is magnetic and forward moving, great for manifesting rituals or any heart-centered intention. So trust your intuition and your excitement. Whatever lights you up inside, it is exactly where you are meant to focus. So I think this quote sums up the heart of 2026. The world is changed by those who have the courage to grow through what they have outgrown. It's definitely a big Pluto theme there, but changing is Uranus. And I don't know the author here of this quote, but we've all been through years of change, especially the past couple of years and maybe the past 5 years. A lot of things have changed. But this year is about integrating what we've learned and moving forward with confidence. And the Uranus-Pluto trine will remind us that growth doesn't have to be chaotic all the time. It is sometimes, but it can be conscious and inspired. And this is our collective invitation to rebuild stronger, to love deeper, and to lead with authenticity. So thank you for hanging out with me for an hour or so, and I hope you've enjoyed this talk, and feel free to comment if you have any thoughts about this or any questions. Have a happy 2026.